Welcome to Whispers in the Wings with director, choreographer, performer, and writer Kathleen Ann Thompson, artistic director of Bellhurst Productions. Kathleen discusses on the program an approach to some of the most challenging and complex theatrical techniques which thespians are known to whisper about in the wings of the stage. Kathleen's 25 years' experience with directing 3 schools for movement theater and directing 2 theater companies, as well as writing and performing award-winning productions for Bellhurst, has given her a lifelong love of theater. Her enthusiasm to elevate the craft of theater for all types of performers and theatrical endeavors is uplifting. We hope you will be stimulated and inspired by these discussions. Hi, everybody. This is Kathleen Ann Thompson, Bellhurst Productions, and this is Whispers in the Wings, a very nice discussion of things that interest thespians, things that actors and theater people often talk about in those dark corners while they're waiting to come on stage. How acting will chase your audience away. That's the title of today's podcast. Stimulus response. It can hold your audience, stimulus response can, and certainly catapult your performance into another level of skill. So let's look at this for a few minutes today. What, first of all, is a successful performance? We as thespians hold very dear those performances that leave us fascinated and moved in our souls, inspired and enriched in an overall way, as a performer or as a viewer. So what is the criteria for a performance to be successful like that? Number 1, is it real? Now, don't confuse this with the genre of realism. What I'm talking about is it authentic? Is there a sense of verisimilitude to it? Something that rings of life as we know it and we recognize it. Number 2, did it engage us? Did we become captive to it and bond ourselves to the soul and the journey of the actors on the stage? Did we go somewhere with them and travel with them? Number 3, was it creative? Did it give us a sense of fascination, inspiration, an enrichment of our perceptions and an expansion of our awareness? Did we get something rich out of it because of its creativity? Well, why is it that this is a criteria? The reason it is because humans are body, soul, and spirit. They're not just mental. Theater cannot speak intellectually about ideas only because the linguistic brain is not emotional. It's just objective information categorized and collated into files. It will never move the human soul or affect their body. And theater seeks to affect the whole being as the viewers feel what I call the rhythm of life. That's recognizing and feeling life as we know it, as we've experienced it. It is at this point that we become engaged as a viewer and as an actor. It has nothing to do with style or genre. We could be performing realism, as in an Ibsen play, or we could be performing a symbolist drama, as in Maeterlinck's The Bluebird, or we could be performing an avant-garde science fiction, sort of animated mime piece. Nevertheless, we as human beings identify with life as we know it and feel it. And there is something in the rhythm, the timing, the spontaneous reflexive reaction to stimuli that tell us this is real or this is contrived, this is artificial. If we want to truly move an audience and create a tremendous sense of attention and involvement, then we have to affect their soul and we have to affect their body because we are related. These 3 things are interrelated and one affects the other. Speaking just to the mind will never hold an audience. That's why on the stage we don't sermonize, we don't editorialize, we don't lecture analytically. No, but instead we contact the whole being, body, soul, and spirit. And there's no more important dramatic skill that an actor has in its toolbox than stimulus response. So what is stimulus response? Well, acting is not about acting. Most of us have heard that. It's about reacting. In essence, acting is simply to react to stimuli, one after the other, in an authentic, reflexive, organic way. Without this authentic reception of stimuli, why, then the actor is forced to act, to put forth a contrived, artificial response to a stimuli which was never received. And this becomes predictive acting. A grave air of telescoping leaves our audience not interested, feeling that this is not real, this is artificial, this is contrived, and will certainly chase our audience away. To react to stimuli, you have to have received it. So the next question we want to ask is, what does it do? Well, stimulus response guarantees that the audience recognizes life on the stage. The rhythm of life, that's what I call the feeling, the timing that we recognize as real life between stimulus and a reaction to the stimulus. So that is what we live, that is what we recognize, and we recognize it on the stage immediately. It triggers bodily reactions and emotions, which then engage the audience. This real quality gives a verisimilitude, as I said, an authenticity. It also stimulates creativity. So the reaction to a stimuli is a reflexive thing. It happens because we truly receive a stimuli and reflexively respond to it. Now, there is a parameter of, let's say, design in which a character responds or needs to respond to a stimuli. Obviously, a character who has grown up in a labor camp with punitive measures of persecution laid upon it every day of its life will react quite differently to a threat than a person who grew up in an affluent environment in which nothing was ever demanded and no penalty or discipline was ever encountered by this person. Obviously, those two characters will have a very different kind of reaction to the same physical threat. But within a design that the director has set for you, or within the parameters of a character's profile, there is still, in that reflexive moment of responding to a stimuli, spontaneity, reflexive spontaneity, something that gives us a moment where truly the creative unconscious can impulse us with a creative idea. That is picked up by us, it is picked up by our fellow actors, and it is picked up by the audience. And here is where live theater becomes so very, very, very exciting, because it is those small creative impulses, those subtle creative impulses that create a sense of spontaneity, of liveness, of authenticness, of true experience for us who are actors with each other and for the audience. Also, one other thing that it does, it creates focus on the stage. So this is quite different from the movies. In the movies, you have a camera that controls where the audience will look. It absolutely gives a focal point by necessity. It can come in for a close-up, a tight shot, or a big wide spot. It can go over into a certain area. It can demand where the audience pay attention, wherever it wants the focus to be. The stage is not like that. And so therefore, stimulus, perceived stimulus, is where the focus will be on the stage. If the actor does not truly perceive stimulus, there won't be that focus. So how to do this? Well, how to do this is to tune into your 5 senses, to still quiet the linguistic mind. So a part of your neocortex, where we do the rational thinking, is a little portion for the linguistic brain. It's actually a very small portion, but it's a lot like the tail wagging the dog. It is huge in its effect. It's actually quite a bully, quite controlling, domineering, and it can absolutely block out the somatic awareness of stimuli that is impacted upon our being, or it can diminish the external awareness of the stimuli that is coming to us from the outside. In all cases, the linguistic mind keeps us in the past or in the future. It talks to us from the past or projects into the future. It is never a present situation with the linguistic mind. If we want to be present so that we can truly, like a radar screen, receive a stimuli spontaneously and reflexively react to it, we have to shut down the linguistic mind. We have to sit it down and open ourselves to the somatic body where we can feel, hear, touch, smell all of the stimuli that are coming in. One of the greatest exercises I have done as an acting teacher is to teach stimulus response, being present so that one can truly receive a stimuli, by working with larva masks. So half the class puts on a larva mask. These are masks which are not really totally human, more like one-celled amoeba creatures, and ask them to wake up in this mask in an environment in which they know nothing. They have no past, they have no future, they have nothing. They know nothing. They don't know what light is, they don't know what darkness is, they don't know what their body is, they don't know anything. And the other half of the class watches as we watch them try to discover, try to perceive what the stimuli are, what touches them, their own body touching themselves, not knowing that they have a body, sounds that they react to without knowing what those sounds are, in fear or in pleasure, touch, same thing. It's a fascinating exercise. And always I'm asking the students, the half of the class that's watching after we are finished, was this boring to you? And always, without any hesitation, they say, oh no, we could have watched another half hour, because this improv usually goes quite long, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, easily. But we are fascinated by watching them simply respond to stimuli, without any narrative, without any scenario, with no plot, just watching them authentically, reflexively respond to stimuli. It's a fascinating thing. Now, if we can turn ourselves to perceiving stimuli somatically, remember, these are our 5 senses. We hear it, we touch it, we smell it, we taste it, or we see it. That's a primary stimulus. And all stimuli is one of those 5, if it's primary. So thinking a thought is not a primary stimuli. It's a tertiary stimuli. So I'm often asking my students, okay, for instance, I ask a student, now why did you change your body position there so that you could look out the window on the set? what was your stimuli for doing that? Because to me it appears to be very artificial the way you did it and quite contrived. And they will almost always say, well, I thought the character would want to get a better view out the window. I said, no. Now, let's remember that thinking is not a primary stimuli. That can't be a primary stimuli for your reaction of turning yourself to look out the window. It has to be something from your five senses. That sets them to rethink the way in which they are trying to receive stimuli. I said it has to be something you see, hear, touch, feel, or taste. And then comes often, okay, I see what you mean. Okay, well, let's say that my eye catches movement outside the window in a peripheral way, and that peripheral movement outside the window, it's a primary stimulus that causes my head to turn in that direction. And therefore, I think now that this is good. Now I can see more clearly the dog outside the window, which my blind mother in the bed next to me, which I'm here to visit, would want to know. Okay, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Stimulus has to be through our five senses. That means we have to shut the linguistic brain down and feel, perceive through those senses the stimuli. Now, breath is a great assistance to us on the stage. Breath has 3 cycles, in, out, and what's in between the in and the out is a suspended cycle in which the air pressure in our body relative to the air pressure outside of our body changes. And there is then the action of responding to that change of pressure by breathing in or breathing out. It's a little like the waves that come up onto the beach, and they come up with a very aggressive energy, and after they have gone a certain amount of length up the beach, they lose energy, and just before they are pulled by another kind of energy underneath the water back out into the ocean, there's a moment in which the little bubbles are suspended on top of the sand there, in which they're sort of waiting. They can't go any further, but they're not going out either. It's a suspended moment, and then they're pulled out. Well, this is exactly what happens on stage. Now, if we are breathing on stage, and I say that knowing that actually a huge portion of actors on the stage are not breathing. They are allowing performance energy and anxieties and tensions to diminish their breathing so that their breathing is not full, nor is it expressive, but is very inhibited and very shallow. So, first of all, you have to be breathing on stage in order for this to work. But if you are breathing, then the sequence is that stimuli always comes in and inserts that phase of breathing that is suspended. Then, depending on the reaction, the body reacts by breathing out or breathing in. So if I hear a creaking door and I'm in a old antique house with 5 floors in it, and there is a huge basement in this house, and it's dark, and the rains and the thunder is pelting outside, and I have an anxiety, a fear, and suddenly I hear this creaking. Immediately, my breath stops, and I'm in this suspended moment, fragment of a moment, this millisecond. I react, and my breath continues. I either look over, see that the door is simply swinging in the wind, and I exhale a kind of relief, or I sense that somebody has just come in without my seeing them, and I take my breath in one way or the other, in that moment of suspension, this is the moment, the fragment of a second where creative impulse comes in. It is truly a moment of suspension. And that creative, reflexive moment will come in with an impulse, a subtlety that will characterize the way in which we react. It is there that the creativity starts to really take a hold between us and ourselves as an actor, if we're alone on stage, or between us and other actors who are playing with us, or between us, not but between us and the audience, for they feel that. So breath is a tremendous assistance to being able to truly find that reflexive response to the stimuli. Now, when that stimuli is not truly perceived, then we have actors acting predictably before actually a stimuli has even the time to impact us. The audience feels that. They know that. And they know it's artificial. And it's never authentic. It is never creative. It is planned. It is by rote. It is something artificially choreographed, contrived ahead of time. Stanislavski always used to say, you don't need to ask how to do an action if you truly receive a stimuli. Because if you truly receive a stimuli, the body reflexively reacts to that stimuli in a truthful, logical, organic, natural way. So the answer to how to do it is to tune in. That means to heighten the awareness and the effects of stimuli on our body, and to turn out, to alert ourselves, to listen, to perceive like a radar screen the external environment for the stimuli, which means we must quiet the linguistic mind down. What is the resistance now to doing that? What are our problems? Why is that hard to do on the stage for an actor? Well, I think it comes down to one thing: fear of nakedness. So, actors have a tremendous fear of being figuratively naked on the stage, being in a naked place where the audience is just looking at you and analyzing you and criticizing you and critically judging you. And actors have just this tremendous, compelling desire to keep moving on the stage so that they're not just looked at. But they misunderstand a very important thing, and that is that drama is about action, as we learned earlier. It is about action. And no action on the stage will certainly drive the audience away. But action is not just movement. That's where they are mistaken. It is also text. It is also waiting. It is also silence. It is also listening. It is also stillness. Action is about a live response to stimuli, whether it comes in stillness and quietness or whether it comes in very dramatic and dynamic action and text. What is needed is that the actor is continually responding to stimuli. So let me give you an example. Let's say that I am a character on the stage and a knock comes to my door, and this stimuli automatically presents to me a stillness. And for 10 seconds, I'm absolutely as if I've been frozen in space, not speaking, not moving, not even breathing. Is the audience going to get bored and fall away? Maybe, unless I am truly responding to stimuli inside. So let's say I don't know who's at the door. It could be one of 3 people. It could be the lover, the illicit lover I've been expecting, in which case I would be happy and delighted and relieved and excited. It could be my husband coming home unexpectedly at the wrong time, which would be a fearful and tension-producing situation. Or it could be the nosy neighbor from next door just sticking their nose into my life at the very wrong time, creating a sense of frustration and complication to what I planned this evening. Now, what am I doing in those 10 seconds? Am I just waiting? No, because then my audience is going away. No, I'm responding to stimuli. What is the stimuli? I am seeing with my internal eyes, the eye of my mind. I am imagining who's on the other side of that door. I imagine visually opening that door and seeing my lover. I imagine visually opening that door and seeing my husband and the startled look I would be giving him and the questions and the anger. I imagine seeing this nosy neighbor who irritates me and my reaction to her. I am seeing something and reacting inside, and the audience knows that. They feel that. They inherently recognize that. And they will know the difference between that and me just standing there for 10 seconds doing nothing, in which case they will not be engaged at all. Okay, so fear of nakedness. We must never be afraid to be still, to listen, to wait, to perceive stimuli, because actors receiving stimuli and reacting reflexively to it is fascinating for the audience. The overall boon to great stimulus response skill of an actor is, number 1, the audience recognizes life and they engage with it, body, soul, and spirit. 2, actors become much more creative with that spontaneous impulse from the collective unconscious coming to us in the moment between stimulus and reaction. And number 3, both actor and audience are highly inspired and leave the performance feeling enriched by having become engaged, by having their awareness expanded, by having the parameters of their thinking stimulated, and in general having gotten something out of the performance because they recognize that life was on that stage. Okay, hope this was helpful to you. So I'll say goodbye for now. This is Kathleen Ann Thompson, Director of Bellhurst Productions. Keep in touch with us, and I love to hear what you're interested in hearing. And we'll gather here again on our next episode of Whispers in the Wings. You've been listening to Kathleen Ann Thompson, Director of Bellhurst Productions. Visit us at www.bellhurst.com.